All right, shalom, shalom. Call Allah, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and to the elders of Great Millstone that rule to teach well. Much peace, love, and salutations to the hopeful elect that are pushing this word in truth and sincerity of heart. Shalom. This is the brother Batak back again with another lesson. And Lord willing, this lesson be edifying. Um, the title of this lesson is We Will Return to a subsistent subsistence lifestyle. And I was reading up recently, learned about this word subsistent and this lifestyle. Um, and I wanted to do a lesson on it because this is something that the world is going to return to. But Esau has made it to where you depend on him, for everything in a society. When back in the ancient times, of course, in the cities there were certain systems put in place, marketplaces and things like that. Where people go to buy and sell things like that. But it's good to have your own, to have your own cattle, to have on your own oxen. You still can go and buy you a cow. You can go buy whatever you want, but from a certain dealer or people that auction off cows that they raise, you can go and buy you some goats and sheeps and things like that still today. But it's not as common um, as it was in ancient times. Everybody, for the most part, certain people had their own cattle, they had their own sheep, they had their own goats, chickens, and they was able to, raise chickens and raise sheep and goat and oxen and cows for their own self-sufficiency. And you don't have self-sufficiency as much in this society. So it says a subsistent lifestyle involves directly harvesting, hunting, fishing, or gathering resources from nature to meet basic needs for food, clothing, and shelter. So if you live in a subsistent lifestyle that you provide your own, you hunt and gather your own food, you fish and gather your own fish to eat for dinner, and gathering resources from nature like it was created to be that way. But Esau has monopolized. He has a monopoly on everything, and you can't really, you can get, you can purchase land and things of that nature, but a lot of people don't know how to sustain themselves. That's the whole point. You don't know how to live off the land, um, how we supposed to live, man. We supposed to live a subsistence life type of lifestyle because the Most High gave us all of these things for meat. You know. Let's go to the principal things for a man. Damn it, what's that scripture? Um, Fire, water. It's in the book of Sirach. Ah, I spelled it wrong. This is the book of Sirach, chapter 39, um, verse 26. It says, the principal things for the whole use of man's life are water, fire, iron, and salt, flour of wheat, honey, milk, and the blood of the grape, and oil and clothing. There's also another scripture that tells you what man really needs. Cover thy shame, cover thy shame, a house to cover thy shame. Uh, there's another precept, a house to cover thy shame, a house, a roof to cover thy shame, cover thy shame. Let me see. cover. There's a scripture in the Apocrypha, Sirach. Ah, here it is. Sirach 29 and verse 21. It says, the chief thing for life is water and bread and clothing, and in house to cover shame. See? Okay, so it's just cover shame, not cover thy shame. So these are the chief things, the main things that you need, to live a simple, subsistent type of lifestyle. Back if you read certain scriptures in the Bible, men had cattle, they had their own cattle. Actually, you know what? I just thought about something. The people in the Bible um, have a subsistent lifestyle. Let's see, I hope that's the right way to spell it. Ugh, Salakia. All right. Did people in the Bible have a subsistent lifestyle? It says, yes, many people in the Bible lived what we call a subsistence lifestyle, living mainly off what they produced themselves with little surplus. Because when you come to a society like America, you have to go to marketplaces like, Publix's, Walmart's, and, these different marketplaces to get certain necessities or just to get food in general. And then Esau is basically has a monopoly on these things. So he controls the food. Let's look at the word monopoly. I'm probably spelling it wrong. Monopoly. I know I'm spelling it wrong. Ah, monopoly. All right. Right of exact sale, single alone. Let's see, because mono means is one. It says a company or corporation which enjoys a monopoly. The process of anything to exclusion of others. Let's see. Possession, I'm sorry. Possession of anything to the exclusion of others. Now, let's see. Let's look up the word exclusion. The act of shutting off, non-inclusive, inclusion, a shutting off, keep out, shut off. So Esau has a monopoly on everything, and he excludes everyone else. So the best way to be is to have your own, to produce your own. So therefore, you don't have to rely on Esau for the scripture says you shall rely on him for the want and need of all things. You know, that's a part of the curses because these devils, they control everything. They control this food supply. That's why these grocery stores are always stocked with food because Esau has a monopoly on everything, and he has possession of all of these things, and he controls it. He controls the food supply, and he can shut. And he's going to bring a famine in order to bring the people under the subjection. So that's why it behooves you to live a subsistent type of lifestyle. And honestly, we're going to go back to that. Having your own cattle, having your own sheep, just having producing your own things, man. Being self-sufficient, not being reliant upon Esau's system, and that's what's going to lead our people to, you know, um, fall victim to the micro hit because they don't know how to be self-sufficient. They don't know how to be subsistent. They don't know how to fish. They don't know how to hunt. You don't know how to get food on your own. You don't know how to start a fire. You don't know how to live outside of Esau, the world, the utopia, not utopia. There's another word. Damn, is a word I'm thinking of, but I don't know what it. I can't remember what it is. It describes the city. The metropolitan. Yeah, you don't know how to live off of Esau's metropolitan type of society. You know, a world that caters to your every need and everything that you want is provided for you. You don't have to work you don't have to go out and hunt in the field to catch dinner because what Esau has a monopoly on the different meats, and they have corporations that produce um, beef. You know, the steaks. They have corporations that have cows that raise them, and they ship the cows to the slaughterhouse, and the slaughterhouse cuts the cows up, and the meat that they process gets sent to the marketplace. So they make it so convenient for you. But that really has made people fucking lazy and relying on that system. And if you can learn, learn how to be self-sufficient. Because when society gets shut down, when Esau makes that mark of the beast mandatory, you need to know certain skills, man. You need to know how to be self self-sufficient, you know, through the spirit and power of Yahweh by Shami Shah, man. So knowing these different type of skills, it can also benefit you. Knowing how to start a fire, even if you have to get a fire starter, man. You know, that's what I just recently purchased a fire striker, you know, just so just to have one. I want to have me one on me, on my person. This is the book of I'm sorry, ChatGPT. Did people in the Bible have a subsistent lifestyle? It says yes. Many people in the Bible lived what we call a subsistent lifestyle, living mainly off what they produce themselves with little surplus. And when it comes to things like making bread, you know, all you need is flour and yeast, and sometimes you don't even need yeast to make bread, water, and you can easily make you a little flatbread, instead of going to the store. Oh, we ain't got no more bread. The bread has run out. Oh my God, it's the end of the world. No, get some flour and make your own damn bread, man. You see, it says, but it varied depending on time, pace, and social class. Early biblical patriarchs, pastoral subsistence. Figures like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob lived primarily off herdsmen and shepherds, dependent on livestock for food, clothing, wealth, and trade. See? So they depend on livestock. That means having your own cattle and things of the nature of that specific nature. How the Gadites used to live when they lived the natives, they lived a subsistent type of lifestyle. They lived off the land because the earth provided everything that we need. The Most High created the earth that way. You have certain fruits, certain vegetables that just grow out of the earth. The Most High gave us everything that we need. But see, Esau has took control over everything. He controls the land. That means he controls the supply of food. He has monopolized everything, and that's what's going to bring the people to their knees because they don't see. Esau's going to have a intentionally cause a famine, which there's enough food. There's more than enough food to go around. But see, Esau is the devil. He's not going to play fair. He's going to intentionally cause a famine. Back a couple years ago, there was all kinds of warehouses burning down. I wonder, was that about coincidence? No. This warehouse burning down, that warehouse burning down. You see, it was done intentional because they want to cause a famine. They already call the people useless eaters. That's how they look at us, useless eaters. It says their survival depended directly on their animals, land access, and seasonal movement. A classic subsistent pastoral economy, and that's what we need now. That if everybody had their own land, if everybody had their own cattle, their own, you know, if people could build their own houses, they don't have to pay in order to live on a specific land. Even if they owned the land, they wouldn't have to pay to live on it. But see, as Esau owns all of this land, he charges you for the land. He charges you for the services. He taxes you as well. Property tax. So all of these things are really oppressive, and they don't make it easy for people to live. It makes it very difficult for people to live. That's why so many homeless people. That's why everybody's struggling, because Esau has created a system that everybody is okay with. They're not complaining about it, which would the spirit is on the true prophets to complain about it. Come on, man, what are you doing? The spirit is on the true prophets to complain. The scripture says the souls that are just complain continually, or roughly paraphrasing the scripture. So we're complaining about these things because in the old days, man, we wouldn't have to pay just to fucking live, man. You should be able to build your own house and not have to pay shit. No property tax. You shouldn't have to. You should own this land. No, pay no taxes on it. But guess what? We are under the rulership of Esau, and he's the devil. So it's Baruch 3:8. And I'll be watching these videos of this Edomite that be basically um I think it's very informational. It's very entertaining as well. Learning how to live off the land, so to speak. Baruch chapter 3, verse 8, it says, "Behold, we are yet this day in our captivity, where thou hast scattered us for a reproach and a curse, and to be subject to payments, according to all the iniquities of our fathers, which departed from the Lord our power." So this is a punishment. America's a punishment, and that's why we're subject to all of these payments because of Esau, and how is the system of finance set up? He controls it. He controls the money. He controls everything. He controls the land, and he charges everybody to live on it. It says, two, Israelites in Canaan, agricultural subsistence. It says, after settlement in Canaan, most Israelites were small farmers, vineyard keepers, shepherds, craftsmen. They relied on rainfall. See, you're supposed to rely on rain for water, man. You shouldn't have to pay. We shouldn't have to pay to get water. Water is free. The earth is covered in what? 90%. Well, I'm not sure the percentage, but it's either 80 or 90 or somewhere up there, man. All it takes is a quick Google search if you want to load that. But the earth is mostly covered in water. And you mean to tell me there's not enough water to go around? Somebody's lying, man. There's water everywhere on this earth. You have lakes, you have ponds, there's water everywhere. You mean to tell me that there's not enough water for people to just get free water? You mean to tell me it's not enough? There's more than enough trees for people to build their own houses, because mostly all of the houses are made out of, different types of wood and things like that, cement, bricks. There's more than enough for these resources so people can build their own houses. But why did and they don't have to pay for it. But again, we're living under the rulership of Esau Edom, the so-called white man. So they relied on rainfall, which we should be able to collect rainwater. In some states, you can't collect rainwater. I remember a video a long time ago. A man I believe he got penalized for collecting rainwater. You can't collect rainwater. What kind of shit is that? And there should be more wells ready and available, like springs, so you can get free water. Water shouldn't be something that you have to pay for at all. Like utilities, that should be free. But we got to remember who we're under rulership of. Esau Edom, the so-called white man. It says they relied on water, they relied on rainfall, seasonal harvest cycles, family labor, storing grain and oil for survival. Biblical laws like gleaning, Leviticus 9:19, I'm sorry, show that poverty and subsistence living were coming, and social systems existed to protect the vulnerable. See, in this type of system, which was like the Lord's welfare system, people were able to sustain themselves. Even the poor get a certain percentage. You're supposed to leave a tenth so for the poor, so they'll have something to eat. So this type of living is very beneficial to a society, and that's where the law, statute, commandments come in place because we need the law, statute, commandments in place for everything to go um, correctly and smoothly according to the will of the Lord. And we're gonna actually return to this type of lifestyle, man, the subsistent type of lifestyle. You can go on and on about all of the things you can learn. A lot of people don't know how to fish. Well, even with that, you have to go get a fishing license in order to fish. You can't just fish on your own. You got to get a license to do it. That means you got to get permission from Esau. So Esau's society is very oppressive. You can't live on your own. You can't do anything on your own without having to pay or getting permission to do it. It says, number three, fishermen and tradespeople in the New Testament. In the time of Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, many followers, such as Peter the Apostle, were fishermen. See, Peter was a literal fisherman. This is the scriptures tell you that. Day laborers, small artisans, artisans. I'm sorry. Daily survival often depended on that day's catch or wages, a near subsistence existence. See, so this is what the world is going to go back to under the nation of Israel. Um, it says, but not everyone lived this way. The Bible also shows economic diversity. Kings like Solomon had wealth and surplus because what he lived 40 years of peace. It was time for Jacob to rule, and we was actually very prosperous while King Solomon was on the throne. Temple elites and tax collectors had income streams. Merchants participated in regional trade networks. Empires, Egypt, Babylon, Rome had complex economies. So subsistence was common but not universal. A big takeaway: most ordinary people in the biblical times lived close to subsistence, meaning survival tied to land, animals, or daily labor, vulnerable to famine, drought, and war, heavy reliance on family and community support. This explains why themes like God providing daily bread, famine and harvest blessings, jubilee and debt relief appeared so frequently in Scripture. If you want, I can also obtain how subsistence living shape Bible laws, whether God's economic system is the Bible promoted subsistence or abundance, differences between Israel's economy and surrounding empires. So we're specifically talking about Israel and how Israel conducted things and did things specifically. Um, so living a subsistent lifestyle is very, very beneficial for you know people. You got knowing how to hunt, knowing how to fish, and living off of the harvest. Having your own vegetables, having your own fruit. There are people out there that live this type of lifestyle. They live off the grid, and it's beautiful to live like that. Disconnected from society. Like an example of it would be those Amish people. They they really don't live the way people in a society lives. They live different. I believe you would call it a subsistent type of lifestyle. They don't believe in technology, but that's off because the scripture says knowledge shall increase. We're living in a time where knowledge is increasing, and without the internet, man, we wouldn't have this truth. So, shit, having the internet is kind of very important in these times. But the point of this lesson is we are going to return to a subsistent type of lifestyle where you own your own cattle, you own your own sheep. You don't gotta, you might have people that sell sheep and goats and things like that, but for the most part, you already have your own, or you buy and increase on what you buy. You buy one cow, buy two cows, and those cows might, but you buy a bull and then you buy a cow. That bull breeds with that cow, and boom, you got some more cows. or whatever. You get the point. So, all right, key aspects of subsistence lifestyle, definition and purpose. It focuses on sustaining oneself and one's family at a minimum, foundational level, rather than producing for market sale. Methods. Activities like include hunting, fishing, gathering, subsistence agriculture, or horticulture. Cultural connection for many. Let's see. Sustainability and preparation. It says it often involves preserving food, smoking, freezing, drying to last through winter and requires taking only what is needed for nature from nature to maintain ecological balance. Challenges, hard labor. It is a labor intensive, demanding, and requires high, consistent effort. That's why the scriptures tell you, uh, hate not laborers work. Let me see. Laborers work. Ah, I don't know how it's quoted. It's it labor work. I'm gonna type in labor work and maybe it'll pop up. Hate not laborers work. Or let me type in hate. Let me see. Uh, the scripture says you don't work. He that doesn't work doesn't eat. Work. Hate. Hate not laborers work. Let me see. Here it is. Of course, I was spelling it wrong. Sirach chapter 7, verse 15. Hate not laborers work, neither husbandry. What husbandry? Being a planter, planting that seed. It says, which the Most High hath ordained. See, the Lord ordained things to be this way. You know, you don't work, eat. This is something that was on my mind, my spirit after watching some videos about, people that actually, the natives that actually still live this type of lifestyle, and you sh- if any, here it is, Second Thessalonians 3:10. For even when we were with you, this we commanded you, that if any would not work, neither should he eat. So we work, we're doing the work of the Lord, of course, that's first and foremost. But when it comes to working a laborer's work, if you don't get out there and till the ground and plant the seed and taking care of the cattle, you don't eat, man. You don't work, you don't eat. That's how it is. My dad always used to tell me that. You don't work, you don't eat. So that's the case. So ultimately, we're doing the work of the Lord, so we can ultimately um, get obtain salvation, which is the reward for our work at the end of the day, at the end of the work day. Once Yahweh shall return. But for this sake, we're referring to doing laborers work in the field, which we are doing laborers work in the field in the spiritual sense by teaching the word. But doing laborers work to provide for food. You might have a cattle, you might have to kill it. Slaughter the cow, you know, take certain cuts, prepare um, prepare a meal. And I'm gonna give you an example of Abraham. Um, let's see, heat of the day. No, no, no. Abraham had here it is. This is the book of Genesis chapter 18 and 1. It says and Yahweh appeared unto him in the plains of Mereh, and he sat in the tent of the tent door in the heat of the day. And he lifted up his eyes and looked, and lo, three men stood by him. And when he saw them, he ran to meet them from the tent door and bowed himself. toward the ground, and said, My Lord, if now I have found favor in thy sight, pass not away, I pray thee, from thy servant. Let a little water, I pray you, be fetched, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree. Because, like, when you have guests, you show hospitality, man. This is something that was common amongst Israel. And even Esau, the Christopher Columbus attested to this when he came over here and he met the natives. They embraced him. You know, that's just something that's in our that's what we do. The scripture says, "Love thy neighbor," meaning your brother. It says, "And I will fetch a morsel of bread and come comfort your heart, ye your hearts, after that ye shall pass on. For therefore are ye come to your servant." And they said, so do as he had said. And Abraham fastened into the tent unto Sarah and said, Make ready quickly 3 measures of fine meal, knit it, and make cakes upon the hearth. So what he was like, oh look, he took some flour and made cakes, make bread, if you will. And Abraham ran unto the herd and fetched a calf tender and good. So he went to his animals, his cattle, and he got one of them that looked was suitable for what he needed, to prepare. It says, and gave it unto a young man, and he hastened to dress it, get it ready, you know. And he took butter and milk and the calf which he had dressed, and set it before them, and he stood by them under the tree, and they did eat. See, so I wanted to bring that precept out to show you how it was. It didn't say he went to the marketplace, because he had cattle, he had flour, he had water, he had these different things, and he didn't have to go to the market to get it. Today you have to go to the store. Oh, let me go to the store and get this, get that. The third. Which is nothing wrong with that. Just want to make that clear. But ultimately, in these type of societies, we had our own things, man. We had our own chickens, we had our own eggs, we didn't want a need for nothing, ultimately, because we lived off the land and what the Lord provided for us. Genesis, the Most High gave us all of the fruits of the field. It's the book of Genesis chapter 1 and 28. It says, and the powers blessed him and said, and power said unto them, Be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the air and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. And the power said, Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, all of the fruit, with and vegetables, which is upon the face of the earth, and every tree in the which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed, to you it shall be for meat, and to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat. And it was so. And the power saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the 6th day. So as you can see, the Most High sent his angels, Yahweh Shani angels set things up to be this way, man. For everything, you can basically live off of the land, and that's how it's supposed to be. That's living off of so-called nature. Have a you might have a tree growing in your backyard. It's a lemon tree. California is very known for having a lot of fruits and things like that just around. Pomegranate trees. Many people that are from California know exactly what I'm talking about, because I've heard things about people. I've heard stories of people that have lived in California. You have certain trees that grow down here in the South. Pecan trees. You can live off. You can literally live off the land, man. Or hunt. Provide and get your own food. So this is something that was on my mind. I wanted to make it out a lesson. So Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. Lord willing, you learn something. It's not bad to know how to fish and how to hunt and having these certain skills, man. You know. So with that, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. I'm gonna close out by giving all praises and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah Hakodash, but honor to the apostles and to the elders of Great Millstone that root and teach well. Shalom.